The fog had mostly rolled out, and the fire was still smoldering slightly. I stood there, waiting and listening for another scream. And then it came. The second screech. This time much closer, and it no longer sounded like a woman in distress. It was just awful. I can't describe it. Every hair on my body stood up. My skin covered in goosebumps. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I just stood in fear. I stood there for about 10 minutes till my nerves had calmed down. I climbed back into my tent with my rifle and lay there watching the tree line, waiting for anything to come out, but nothing ever did. I woke up the next morning around sunrise. I got up and climbed out of my tent, and that's when I saw it. Animal tracks. I assumed it's from whatever I had heard last night. But these weren't regular tracks. Each track had 7. I don't fucking know. Finger imprints? They weren't paw prints at all. They looked like human hands with long, gnarly fingers. This is one of the dumbest things I've ever done, but I just ignored it. Figured whatever it was had left. I collected some more wood and put it by my fire ring before grabbing my pole and walking downhill to the creek. I probably spent 5 or 6 hours fishing. Mostly because nothing was biting. I went back up to my campsite with 3 fish. It wasn't a lot, but it'd feed me today and tomorrow. I spent some time cleaning the fish, putting 2 in my tent wrapped in some plastic wrap. Then I spent some more time just hanging out in the wilderness. I walked the area a bit, getting a bearing of my surroundings. The sun started to get low when I got back to my tent. So I got my matches, arranged some wood in a teepee and started a fire to cook my fish. I grabbed a stick, popped the fish I had out on the end of it, and began cooking it. The sun had almost set when I pulled it out of the fire and began eating. After my belly was full, the sun was down, and it was pretty dark out. I tossed some more wood on the fire and stoked it. I couldn't bring myself to get to bed as quickly after the night before, but I found myself pretty tired after a couple hours. So, I climbed in my tent with my rifle and laid down. Just as I started to doze off, the screech came again. This time, I was sure it was in my campsite. I grabbed my rifle and jumped out of my tent. What happened next is the most terrifying thing that has ever happened in my life.